Welcome back, trainers. So we have a new Deoxys coming in, and that is going to be the defense form. No more soloing the attack form. That was kind of nice because if you wanted to show up late or at any time to your liking, you would be able to just go in there and solo it if you did have the Pokemons and means to do so. But now, that's not the case. You're going to have to go in there with a few more people, and we're going to discuss how many you're going to need and the Pokemon counters that you maybe want to be using going into this, because defense form has some pretty good moves. So let's go ahead and discuss this. Before we get started, let's go ahead and take a look on when you're going to be able to start going up against the Deoxys defense form. So they go on to say trainers participating in EX raids taking place March 25th and later will be challenging defense form Deoxys. So if you do have a pass for, say, the 19th like myself, that is going to be the attack form. So that is going to be your last chance to go up against it for now until they return it one day. And after that, is going to be the defense form. Alrighty, so here we are over on the Go Hub. Let's go ahead and take a look at the defense form Deoxys, and stay tuned towards the end because I will be going over Giratina alternate form and compare it to the origin form to see the difference here, because there's something in the Pokedex that is hinting towards that we might get it soon, but that just could be me and they just could have put that in the Pokedex. Anyways, with the defense form, you're not going to be able to take it out with 3 people. You're going to need 4. All right, and it's going to have a max CP of 2,274, so that's looking pretty good for the Great League as well as the Ultra League. Attack 144, defense 330, stamina 136. So obviously its defense is going to be on the higher end, seeing that it is the defense form. If we go down to take a look at the weaknesses, I mean, guys, this is going to be pretty much the same old song and dance, just like Mewtwo, just like the other Deoxyses, except for this one is going to have a bit more bulk to it, right? So you're going to be basically using these same Pokemon. What I'm going to be recommending, though, is which Pokemon you're going to want to use depending upon the move that it has, okay? So we're going to have weak to Bug, Dark, and Ghost, resisting, fighting, and Psychic. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at the moves. And if you have a big group, these counter videos can help you out, but if you're going in there with like 15-20 people, you can literally just use recommended, tap the screen, and you don't even have to look at it. You can just turn your head to the side and just tap away. You guys will beat it fairly easy. But if you don't have very many people in your area and you have to be very strategic in what you're doing when you're going into these raids to try to take it out with minimal amount of people, then that's when you're going to want to start picking the correct kind of counters, okay? So take note of that as well. Zen Headbutt and counter for the quick moves. For the charge moves, we have Thunderbolt, Rock Slide, and Psycho Boost. So all of those are going to be a double charge move. It probably will be pretty spammy, so take note of that. So Thunderbolt, all right, very good. Rock Slide and Psycho Boost, those are all excellent moves. So this is going to be looking fantastic for PvP. So we see Zen Headbutt and counter. Okay, so we know that Tyranitar is going to be one of those Pokemon you always want to pick. But in this case, if it does have counter, you're not going to really want to use it. I mean, you can and feel free. It is the defense form after all. It doesn't have that much of attack, but then again, it is going to be an EX raid boss, so it's nothing to be taken lightly. So if you do have minimal people and you're going in there with a full team of Tyranitars, counter is going to absolutely destroy your Tyranitars because it's going to be 4 times weak to that. All right, now let's go ahead and discuss counters with minimal people. You are going to need 4 pretty strong trainers, and you should be able to take it out. Otherwise, if you're going in with a big group like we just went over, you don't really have to worry too much about your counters here. So I would say not number 1, but this is going to be a fairly good option, seeing that Mewtwo's not going to be weak to Zen Headbutt nor counter. As a matter of fact, it's going to be resisting both of those moves, as well as the Psycho Boost. Thunderbolt and Rock Slide is going to be taking neutral damage, but it should be able to take that fairly well, seeing that the defense form doesn't have the highest attack around. Psycho Cut and Shadow Ball is what you're going to want on your Mewtwo. The more you have of those, the better, okay? Now, if we move down to Tyranitar, this would have been pretty much your best option to go up against Mewtwo and the other Deoxys, and you didn't really have to think too much about it, right? But now it has counter, so you need to look out for that. So if it did have Zen Headbutt, then this is going to be a fantastic option to go in there with. If it did have, say, Psycho Boost, that is also going to be resisted by Tyranitar, so you will be looking good to pick this as well. As far as the other charge moves, Tyranitar doesn't really have too much to worry about as well. You have Bite and Crunch, that is the moveset you're going to want on that. And then another great option is going to be Weavile with Feint Attack and Foul Play. You do need to look out for counter yet again because you're going to be Dark and Ice type. Both of those are going to be weak to fighting, so this is going to be going down extremely quick yet again, so you need to look out for that. As far as the Zen Headbutt, it will be taking reduced damage, as well as the Psycho Boost. Rock Slide is also going to be super effective to Weavile, so you also need to look out for that. So it's pretty interesting, and I like the moveset that it has because it is going to be countering the Pokemon that people are going to be using because they're going to be strong typically before, but now this defense form has a bit more bulk to it, as well as better counters for the Pokemon that it's weak to. And then if we move on to Scizor here, not too much it really has to worry about either, although Rock Slide is going to be neutral as well as counter. It is going to be bug type, so it will kind of resist that because of the steel dual typing there. Furry Cutter and X-Scissor or Night Slash will do fine, although X-Scissor is getting stabbed. Okay, Furry Cutter is extremely, it's not the strongest move, but it gains energy pretty quick, okay? And then if we keep going down here, we have Yanmega with Bug Bite and Bug Buzz as well. It does need to look out for the Rock Slide as well as the Thunderbolt. Otherwise, counter will be taking reduced damage. Zen Headbutt is just going to be neutral. Thunderbolt super effective, and Psycho Boost neutral. So this can be a good option, I suppose, but you do have some hazards in there. I really like using Yanmega. Now let's talk about Gengar, because this is going to be your best counter, basically doing the most damage, but it doesn't have that survivability, right? So it's going to be going down pretty quick. Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, or Lick and Shadow Ball, right? That's going to be what you want. If you do have another quick move that's not going to be Shadow Claw or Lick, then that's fine. Just make sure you have Shadow Ball on this thing. Now, it needs to look out for Zen Headbutt as well as Psycho Boost, because it is going to be part Poison type, taking super effective damage from those. But on the flip side, if it does have counter, you are Ghost and Poison, so you will have a double resistance to that, in which case Gengar would be one of your best options to go in there with. If it had Thunderbolt or Rock Slide, it's going to be neutral damage and doing a decent amount onto the Gengar, but not too much to worry about, okay? But keep in mind, if it did have counter, Gengar is going to be magnificent, all right? And I'm pretty excited about that because of that double resistance there. And moving down the list here, we do have Alolan Muck. I mean, you can use this. The thing about it is it has very low damage output. If you're trying to use a unique team, I suppose you could throw that in there with Bite and Dark Pulse. But, you know, there's going to be better options. But keep that in mind. It doesn't have any super effective damage from the Deoxys Defense form. It is going to be Dark type, and counter will be super effective to Darks, but it is part Poison, so it is going to be offsetting that super effective damage. Moving on to Pokemon that'll actually be doing a good amount of damage, we have Honchkrow here with Snarl and Dark Pulse. But this time around, you have some hazards that you need to worry about with it, and that is going to be Thunderbolt and Rock Slide. Because it is going to be part Flying type, it will be taking super effective damage. The counter is just going to be neutral because it is going to be a dual typing of Flying, so it doesn't really have too much to worry about there. But Honchkrow is looking pretty good, so if you do have one of those powered up, you may want to consider using it. And then moving on to Houndoom here, always has been a good counter option for these EX raids, starting from Mewtwo. You're going to want to have Snarl and Foul Play. But this time around, it does have some hazards it needs to look out for, and that's going to be counter, which is going to be doing pretty good damage to those dark types, right? And that fire is not going to be offsetting it to make it neutral. It's just going to be super effective to it. And if it did have psychic moves, then this is going to be something you want to use because it will be resisting those. And then it also has to look out for Rock Slide because, well, fire type. And that dark type is not going to help it neutralize. So Houndoom looking okay, but it does have hazards just like the rest of them. All right, and moving down the list, we have Pincer here. It's going to have Bug Bite and X-Scissor personally on mine. This should be a good option to go up against it if it does have counter. And if it does also have Rock Slide, you need to look out for that because that will be super effective to those bug types. All right, and then moving along, we have Absol here, which is going to be a pure dark type. You're going to want to have Snarl and Dark Pulse. So this is also going to be a great option. This is a glass cannon, so it does need to look out for that counter, which will be super effective towards it. If it does have, say, all psychic moves on the Deoxys, you will be resisting those and be able to stay in the fight a little bit longer than usual. Right, and finally we have Misdreavus here, and you will want Hex and Shadow Ball. You could use Sucker Punch, and this is going to be a good option if it does, say, have counter. And if it does have Zen Headbutt, it's not going to be super effective because it's not like Gengar and not part Poison type. Psychic moves are not super effective to ghosts. All right, so there you have it. And, you know, there is going to be plenty of other options to use. I mean, You have Gyarados with Bite and Crunch. I mean, if you wanted to throw in an Umbreon, we all know that that thing doesn't put out the most damage. But if you're going in there with a big group of people, you should be okay. You have Drift Bloom, which can also be okay if you wanted to throw in some fun Pokemon with a big group. But when it comes down to the smaller groups of people, when you go for these lower DPS types of Pokemon, you're basically just going to run the clock out. So you may want to go for those higher end picks that we went for. So like I said, you know, Gyarados with Bite and Crunch, for Alligator with Bite and Crunch, things like that that have dark moves or super effective typings towards it will also work. But those are my recommendations to you and the Pokemon you want to use depending upon the moveset that it does have. Right, so like I said in the beginning, we're going to be going over Giratina and its origin form and what is the difference between its alternate form. The alternate form is the one we're currently looking at here. As we can see in the Pokedex, there is a spot for that. Who knows when we're going to be getting that? That could be Halloween of this year, or it could be within a couple of weeks. Who knows? But let's just go ahead and go over the stats to see the differences here, because the origin form is going to be looking a little bit better as far as the attack goes. As a matter of fact, it's looking a lot better. Right, so here we have the origin form Dialga, and it is going to basically be swapped for attack and defense compared to the other one. So this one has 225 attack, 187 defense. So watch this. If we go over to the alternate form, they're literally swapped, see? So this one has 187 attack and 225 defense. So this one is going to be the more bulkier one for sure, and we all know it's pretty good in PvP, right? But this one's going to be pulling up and almost being useful to go up against raids to get a very good time. Alright, with that 225 attack. And in Pokemon Go, the higher the attack stat, the potentially higher CP it's going to get. As we can see, it's going to reach 3,683 CP for its max potential 100% IV. And with a stamina of 284, that's looking pretty good with that mixed attack there. So if we go over to its moves, it's going to be the exact same as the other Giratina. Shadow Claw, Dragon Breath, and then Dragon Claw, Ancient Power, Shadow Sneak. So I just wanted to bring that to your attention. It is in the Pokedex. When can we see this? I'm not too sure, but I just wanted to show you this because personally I think this one looks a lot more better and a little bit more useful as far as going up against raids. And I wouldn't necessarily say PvP because having that bulk really does help it out. But it will be able to get that attack and defense buff with that Ancient Power because it does share that same move. So with that said, trainers, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a big thumbs up, and I'll be catching you all next time. But before we go, I just want to get your opinion on how do you like the one upload a day. I'm kind of slowing down just for now, taking it easy right after my birthday. I've still been in that kind of slow rhythm, but I'm going to be picking it back up and putting 2 videos, maybe even 3 videos back up again one day. I just want to kind of like slow down a little bit because this has been one tedious grind ever since Pokemon Go came out, and uploading 1 video a day has been kind of a nice relaxing relief. But at the same time, I'm the type of person who's continuously thinking, why did I just upload 1 video today? I could have put in so much more work. But anyways, thank you for watching, trainers, and I'll be catching you all next time. Take care.